Hey guys, we're going to talk about barbed wire in our last video this week. And talk about the reasons for it, the different types, the effects it had, and just really what it was for. So barbed wire became a huge part of Texas history because it shaped the way ranches were set up. It shaped the way that we move cows from one place to another, and it's used even today in farming and ranching, and other places like in prisons and different places that need to be secure. They put barbed wire on top of fences and stuff like that. But barbed wire started out as something that farmers used to keep cows from going into their crops and destroying it or eating it. And so during the cattle trail times, the ranchers would take their cattle from wherever their ranch was, go directly straight as possible. Might have to go around, rivers and stuff like that, but through land they would go as straight as they possibly could. And sometimes that meant going through farmers' land. So the cows would go through and they'd eat it. They'd stampede over all of the crops and they would destroy it. So farmers wanted to come up with a way to keep cows from getting into it and keep the ranchers from getting into their farms and destroying it. And so the cattle industry grew slowly until the Texas Revolution, when settlers in the Texas Republic led to an increase in ranching. So after the Texas Revolution, more and more people came to Texas for all the land, for all of the opportunity, and ranching became very huge. And so that led to a reason to have barbed wire, because it went from having very few people to having a lot of people. And so the need to control your land and who could get on it and who couldn't led to the rise of barbed wire. So we're going to watch a video really quickly about barbed wire made by the Barbed Wire Museum, showing you some different types and how it works.
Well, they say good fences make good neighbors. The same could be said about ranches. In the Old West, ranchers needed a way to protect and control their herds, which was a feat easier said than done. That is, until barbed wire came along. Before barbed wire, people had the option of building their fences completely out of wood or plant hedgerows to section off the property, neither of which was a viable option in the West. A lot of inventors tried to capitalize on this need, which led to some pretty interesting concepts. From the bizarre, to the imaginative, to the downright maniacal, and finally to the wire we are a little more familiar with today. Mass production of barbed wire in the late 1800s ushered in a new era for the West. For the first time, land could be divided up effectively and at a minimal cost. It provided ranchers and settlers the means to claim their territory, manage livestock, and control resources. But that doesn't mean it was welcomed with open arms by everyone on the range.
Barbed wire was probably the curse of the nation as far as to the ranchers of way back when in the 1800s. When it started coming in, they were used to open range. They were used to running cattle together. They were used to gathering thousands and thousands of acres of cattle and putting them together, sorting them back out, branding them, turning them back out into a community kind of operation. Then as they began to divvy up the West and the surveying came in and they actually had some ownership and people wanted to run their cattle on their places, is when the barbed wire came in. They called it devil's wire. Even when I was a kid, there were cowboys that still hated it because they'd grown up around this country and could ride for 25 miles and never open a gate. And they hated it because of what it did to the country. It changed the country. It changed that way of doing business.
For all its strengths, however, barbed wire does have a flaw. If a bull or cow really wants to go through the fence, they're going through. Busted wire and holes in fences were all too familiar problems for the cowboy. And when you're out on the range, you don't always have the right tools for the job. That's when it helps to be a little inventive.
You know, you work with the tools that you have, and there's stretchers that you can get to stretch wire, and there's all kinds of them made, different ways of doing it. But you can really do it with just a hammer, standard carpenter's hammer. And all you do is the brake, you put a loop on one end of the wire, you put a single wire attached to the other end of the brake, you run that wire through the loop, you put a standard claw hammer there. Each time you turn the hammer, it goes around that hammer head and gets that much, an inch or whatever each turn, and tightens it and tightens it and tightens it, and you can bust the wire. You can make it tight enough to bust the wire.
Now that's cowboy ingenuity at its finest. And you can see more than 1,000 different strands of barbed wire here in the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. If you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel or check our website at.
So these are some different types of barbed wire. We have the very first patent that was ever put in by Joseph F. Gilden in 1874, and then a few others that followed him as well. But there are tons of different types of barbed wire. You'll see a few of these as I click through some of these images on Google. Now there's more of a standard size and a standard type of barbed wire that people use. But back then, people were making homemade barbed wire really with whatever they could use. So barbed wire has tons of different types, and it had major effects like that cowboy you saw in that video was talking about, the different things it could do and how it shut down the frontier. They could go for 25 miles without ever running into a fence, but now it cut down and parceled off that land. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the cattle drives ending in 1880s because of the outbreak of Texas fever, the falling prices in cattle. Cows were not as expensive as they were because it was a lot easier to get them from the ranches to market with refrigeration, with trains, things like that. And the use of barbed wire blocked those original trails and made it impossible to get through. So that's all I got for this week, guys. Make sure you look at any of the discussion questions and you look for my comments as well. Have a good rest of your week and a good weekend. Bye, guys.